Hey guys, I just want to talk to you about Sarah Everard and violence against women. For those outside of the UK who may have not heard about the story, Sarah, age 33, was last seen in South London on March 3rd. She was on her way home when she went missing. Her body was found miles away from where she was last seen, and a serving Metropolitan Police officer has been arrested in suspicion of her kidnapping and murder. Many women, rightly so, are feeling unsafe, angry, frustrated, and very let down. Although the sad reality is that this is not a rare crime. Since Sarah first went missing, 6 women and 1 little girl have been reported as being killed at the hands of men. Globally, 35% of women have experienced physical and/or sexual partner violence or sexual violence by non-partners. A survey for UN Women UK found that almost all young women in the UK, 97% of 18 to 24-year-olds, have been sexually harassed. 80% of all women have been victims of some form of harassment in public places. 2 women are killed a week in the UK as a result of domestic violence, and the United Nations has estimated that 1 in 3 women will experience sexual or physical abuse during her lifetime. The point that I am trying to make is that violence against women by men is not rare, and although not all men are killers, hashtag not all men, 93% of killers in England and Wales alone are in fact men. But this case specifically has shaken up the nation, and there are 2 reasons for it. Firstly, the main suspect is a serving cop, and I mean, as women, we already don't feel safe in so many situations, like when it's dark, when we're alone, when we're drunk, when we're in an Uber, etc. The fact that the alleged murderer is a serving police officer just takes the unsafe feeling to a whole other level. But I personally think that that's just an added bonus. The real reason is because it could have happened to anyone. I have read so many tweets and messages from so many women saying that could have been me. And I agree, it could have been any of us. But then I thought to myself, wait a minute, it could have been any of us in many other cases. And that led me to think about the problematic notion that hides underneath that feeling we all had. And that is the idea that women can take actions to protect themselves against violence, and that it is our actions that dictate whether we are safe or not. The reason this case has shocked so many is because people cannot find fault in Sarah's actions. She did nothing wrong. Violence against women does not happen because of something women do or do not do. It happens because someone is violent against us. Telling women there is something we can do to protect ourselves from our own murder, abuse, rape, or harassment is the root of the problem. And as women, we are told from an early age how to protect ourselves from our own attacks. And if we don't take all the recommended measures and something happens, well, then it must be our fault. That's called victim blaming, by the way, and it happens all the time. What did she wear? How much did she have to drink? Was she alone? Did she say no loud enough? Why did she stay with him if he was abusive? There are only examples for the way society has shifted the blame from the perpetrators to the victims. How violence against women is reported also contributes to this. She got raped instead of he raped her. Woman got murdered instead of man murdered woman, etc. And of course, weak legislation and not enforcing maximum law and penalties when punishing those who commit violent acts against women. This attitude that women's safety is not important, and by the way, this is not an opinion, it is a fact that I base on the fact that as little girls, we are told to yell fire instead of rape when we are attacked on the street. This attitude that we don't matter is so deeply rooted in our society that we literally don't even see it anymore. On top of all of that, and it makes so much sense, as women, we want to believe that we have some control over our own fate, that we can do something to protect ourselves and our daughters, because accepting that we don't have any say in it is fucking terrifying. And even though experience has taught us that that is bullshit, violence against women is not a small problem that only occurs in some pockets of society. It is a global public health problem of pandemic proportions, affecting hundreds of millions of women worldwide every single day. We as a society continue to teach girls to shrink their lives while we do very little to educate boys and men, not only to respect women, but also to challenge those who do not do so. We don't change it by giving women guns, by teaching our daughters self-defense, or telling them to stay at home when it's dark. I mean, even if you ignored the number of women who are harmed and murdered in their own homes every year, the idea of that being the solution is preposterous and only further validates the behavior that needs to be recognized and addressed at the highest level. We change it by changing the narrative, starting by recognizing that this is not a women's safety issue. This is a male violence issue, and all of the excuses given, being it blaming the victims or saying that men are simply biologically wired to be more violent and are unable to control themselves, only further contribute to how we have already been conditioned to accept male violence towards women. Because murder and femicide is one end of the violence spectrum against women. On the other end, there is harassment, guy talk, locker talk, sexism, all of which may seem less threatening, but they create a climate in which women feel unsafe. And more importantly, they enable predatory behavior in some men. All of the above needs to be called out by women and men alike. For those men watching who want to help, it's very simple. Call the behavior out at the very least. Let this be a reminder that no behavior that is not violent by itself is ever an invitation, and more importantly, a justification or an excuse for violence. This case is shocking, but not because it could have happened to all of us. Because I tell you, ladies, violence can be inflicted on any of us, regardless of who we are, what color our skin is, how we carry ourselves, what we wear, where we live, how much we drink, etc. The numbers speak for themselves, okay? Most of us have either experienced violence ourselves or personally know someone who has. It is shocking because it happens all the time. And because despite Sarah doing everything right, I am sure that there are still those who think that she should not have been walking alone at 9:30 p.m. at night, because even in 2021, people would much rather limit women's freedoms even more and make it official, because trust me, most of us already limit ourselves without anyone telling us to do so, instead of dealing with the actual problem, which is male violence. Just like how 40 years ago, when the Yorkshire Ripper murdered 16 women, the police response was to tell women to stay home after dark. Fucking mind-blowing.